So welcome to the Love Flight podcast. It's Paul Tizard here. And today's guest, we have Sharon Simon, who's joining us from, I don't know where, but we will find out all of that shortly. So welcome, Sharon. How are you?
I'm good, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm in Manhattan. I'm in New York City.
Nice. Okay, great. So for the listeners, then tell us a little bit about yourself, how you found us, and just, start with the who are you kind of thing first.
So I'm really excited to be on your podcast. My fear of flying is having a massive effect on my life. I'm a professional comedian. I love driving. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to drive to Florida. I'm happy to drive to Kansas. But currently, I have an opportunity in Napa Valley that
Okay.
I'm ignoring because that is not that I can't drive to Napa Valley, but the amount of time it would take me to get to Napa Valley from where I am would make the gig not worth it. Not to forget, I've had opportunities in other continents, and I've never been. I've been to Canada and I've been to Mexico, but other than that, I haven't been off of this part of the world, and I would really, really love to. I love my work. I love being a professional entertainer. I'm at a point in my career now where if I don't get over this fear of flying, I'm not going to get to whatever that next place is.
Oh, so this sounds like a part one and a part two to me, if ever I heard one.
And I want to tell you another like quirky thing about me. I have a pet parrot who is in her 20s. I've had her most of her life. So I have a flying animal, and she is afraid of flying. I think I made her afraid of flying. Like, every once in a while, she'll fly to one part of the apartment to another, and she'll land, and she'll sing a little song, and she'll be proud of herself. But most of the time, she'll look at an area and be like, "Can you take me there? Because I don't want to flap these wings. I'd rather stay grounded."
That is, well, that's the first, I have to say. So tell us about how you found us then. What's your, that bit.
So I believe we found each other through Facebook. I'm not the type of person that I'm like, you know what, I'm scared of this. I'm just going to be scared of it and not do it. I want to get over this. So I've joined a bunch of different Facebook groups where I interact with other people who have fear of flying. And one of them was I have flown, not in a while, but I have flown, and one of them was extraordinarily helpful to me when I was on my last flight. My last flight had, I think, what would be considered moderate turbulence.
Okay.
I'm not sure. At no point were the flight attendants told to sit. At no point were they told to sit. So I know it wasn't that bad, but for me, it was so terrifying. Right. that I got through it through the support of people in the chat rooms of the Facebook group, as well as through promising myself if I got through the flight without freaking out, I didn't have to get on flight again, which was not necessarily the best promise I could have made myself. But that's how you and I found each other.
So is that a promise or a lie? Because, are you going to be like, I've got to hold yourself to it, or could you just say it was a little white lie? I just said it to keep myself alive, and I will fly.
I don't want to hold myself to it. I want to take that opportunity in Napa Valley. I recently turned something down that was a wonderful opportunity in the middle of the country to open for a very big comedian. And I was just like, I can't do it. I can't drive there in time. So I don't want that to be a promise. I also want to see the world.
Yeah.
And, Facebook and Instagram is really good at this point at reading our minds, I feel like, through what we look at. So recently, it showed me these pictures of rural China that were so beautiful that I really want to see it. I really want to go now. That's not a flight to Napa Valley. That's over a day in the air.
Yes.
How am I going to do that?
And so, okay. So let's explore a little bit of what your fear's about then, what you're telling yourself. I'm also curious, is this part of your act that you do as well? Does it during?
No. I have not. I mention it when I headline, when I do an hour and I talk about myself and who I am. Sometimes I'll share that, but I don't have actual specific jokes about my
You
fear
do
of
an
flying.
hour. How on
Yeah,
earth do
yeah,
you do it?
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I've
Wow.
been a comic for over 20 years. It's who I am.
Okay. An hour. Wow. That's impressive. That's a lot. That's
Thank
a long
you.
time, isn't it, to hold a crowd?
It's a longer time in the air.
So let's just get this straight before we find out a bit more about your fear. You get up in front of
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
who are gonna be like, "Go on then, make me laugh, lady," and you do that for an hour. I mean, this is like most people's worst nightmare, and you do that. You won't get on the aircraft.
And I'm not saying I don't get anxious. Sometimes on stage I do get anxious, especially if the stage is high. If it's a high up stage, then I have that fear of heights feeling. But in terms of holding a crowd and working a crowd, this is something I've been doing for over 20 years. I have been an entertainer since I was a little girl, so that is something that feels natural. I am an anxious person. Doing it makes me anxious, but I am not in my right mind. When I take a break, we all need a break. We all need a vacation. I take a week vacation. I come back to the stage. I'm not as happy a person unless I'm doing it regularly. It's sort of like something bad happens in my day. I have the ability to turn that into something funny and make other people feel good from what happened.
Yeah.
And I don't have kids. It brings meaning and joy to give that gift to other people, to let them feel better, because there's nothing like live entertainment. I think that the greatest is music. If you can move people with music, there is no greater gift. I was not gifted that. I was gifted the gift of humor, which is up there. Not up there in a plane, but up there.
All right. It's very impressive. And you've
Thank
obviously
you.
got tremendous resources to do that. So we'll come back to that. So tell us about this fear of flying of yours. Tell us the backstory and what happens.
So I'm going to do my best to tell you what I think is a combination of different things, but I'm not honestly sure. I'm not honestly sure how it got so bad. Growing up, my father was a huge fan of Disney World. And we went I'm from New Jersey. I'm from the part of New Jersey that's right outside of Manhattan. We would go very regularly, like once a year to Disney World, and once a year we'd go to Vermont. These were our vacations.
Right.
And when we went to Disney World, we flew. And my father, even if he had fear of flying, he hid it. I never saw it. My mother had an intense fear of flying. As a kid, I had no fear, none at all. But I was I would get sick sometimes. But so what? I wasn't scared. I thought the fact that my mother would be scared was silly. That fear started to penetrate me as I got older. And I remember at one point, I was at one point flying back and forth from California to New York a lot. And my mom would want to hear from me right when I landed and right before I got off the plane. And I'd be like, why? So silly. You don't ask me to do this when I go on the subway or when I go in a car. I thought it was silly. But then I went through a period of time in my life where I didn't have the opportunity to fly or to do many things that were sort of exciting. And when I went through like a rough time.
Okay.
I didn't realize that it affected me. I got married, and my husband and I went on our honeymoon to Savannah and to South Carolina. I actually wanted to go to Hawaii, but this was what we could afford money-wise, time-wise at that time.
Yeah.
And his dream was always to go to Savannah. I'm really blessed that I get to perform in Savannah. I have been there once a year at the Savannah Comedy Review, and I love going there. And it's become you can drive to Savannah from where I live. I don't know if you know it, but it's like 9 hours, like 9 or 10 hours, depending. And that might sound like a long
That's drive, isn't it? Crikey. Yeah.
I do drives like that all the time now for work. But we came back from our honeymoon so in love with Savannah that we wanted to go back as soon as possible. And the next time we went back, we didn't have the time to drive there. So my husband booked us flights and I resisted it. And I didn't even understand why I was resisting it. And we got on the plane and the plane starts taking off and I start hysterically crying. Like I am crying so hard. He's embarrassed. I can't stop myself. We're in the air. This is a fairly smooth flight. It's a very short flight. And he's like, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I didn't know this was going to happen.
No. And that was the first time, was it? That
was the first time to my memory that it was. And there was a point as a kid where my mother's fear definitely rubbed off on me, and I wasn't looking to fly, but it wasn't anything like this. When we were in the air going to Savannah, I think this is like a 2-hour flight or a 2.5-hour flight, something like that. And my husband was surprised by it, and I didn't know that was going to happen. In that time period, I also flew to California for my cousin's bat mitzvah. California is the flight I've done the most times. It's a very smooth flight if you do it at night. I don't know why. I didn't have a plug for my iPhone at the time. I remember flying. They give you a TV and you have headphones, right? But now we have iPhones that need certain kind of plugs for the headphones that they give you. I didn't have a plug. This was a very big flight, like 3 rows across, and the flight attendant sees me crying and it's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I can't watch my iPhone. I don't know how I'm going to get through this flight. She gives me some like peppermint oil on a napkin to breathe in, and she gave me an adapter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, pushing myself. I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to get better at this. I had an opportunity to work in Kentucky overnight, 4 flights in 2 days.
Right.
I did it. I did it like a rock star. I felt good. I'm like, I'm getting better at this. And then last summer, my husband wanted to go to Texas for some family events, and I didn't want to do it. I like really, really didn't want to do it. So I just kept blowing him off. I kept being like, let's talk about this later. But it was really important to him. So he kind of sat me down. He's like, what are you doing? Like, yes. I really want to do this. So he does a lot for me. And it's just like, okay, I'll do it. Our flight there was smooth. I had a drink. I was watching, I watched the old West Side Story. I told myself I was Frank Sinatra. Like, I got through this flight, and we landed and we rented the car, and I wanted to scream to the skies, I can fly now. I'm not scared of anything. We had our trip. While we were there, we both contracted COVID. We did not know we were contracting COVID. This was last summer. So at this point, COVID was not.
Yeah.
It wasn't the deadly thing that I know many people got very sick, but at this point, it wasn't the fear that we had. I didn't know I was contracting COVID, and I know that made me more sensitive. This flight was the bumpiest flight to my memory. I know it is not the bumpiest flight I've been on. I was on a flight to California once where I hit my head. It dropped fast enough that I lifted out of my chair and hit my head on the overhead compartment. That was at a time where I wasn't scared. So I wasn't scared. I was hurt, and I got past it. This flight was the bumpiest to my memory. At no point where the flight attendants sat. So I'm imagining it was moderate turbulence. I wasn't the only person making noise in terms of fear on the flight.
Okay.
But that was what I said. I got through it by promising myself I'd never have to get on a flight again. I don't know. I don't know that I could have gotten through. I had all these tools that I had from our Facebook group. I had the chatting with people who were monitoring the flight. I had that piece of paper that you stick in front of you that says, if you can read this, you're okay. because I had learned that if you drop really fast, you'll black out. And so if you can read it, you're fine. But the only thing that really got me through that flight was promising myself I never had to do it again. And I haven't been on a flight since.
Yeah, so you did a deal with yourself. Right. Okay.
No.
Okay. So what is it you believe about flying? What do you think happens in your head?
I don't like being out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I've had, in this podcast isn't about this, so I'm not going to get into it, but I've had some really bad things that you wouldn't think would happen. So I have this like natural fear of, well, if it could happen, it will.
Right.
I don't like being high up. I love skiing. I don't like being on the chairlift. I love performing. I like being on stages that are really low to the ground. I don't like roller coasters.
Yeah. Well, I always say roller coasters are not anything like flying, a bit, but I can get the rest. I can understand the height thing. You know, that all makes sense. A lot of people make that association with roller coasters but roller coasters are much more interesting. You know, if you want excitement, don't go on a flight.
Well, but my friends that love roller coasters love flying.
So I still think that's a false association. Just putting it out there.
Good.
Right?
And then, so without giving away my age, there was a time in my youth where a lot of flights were being hijacked. And I know that they've changed things so that this is not going to be a case. But I didn't even mention 9/11, but that was definitely... I was flying back and forth from California after 9/11, but I had a business trip that I went on the week after 9/11, and I took the bus. I took the bus across country.
Yeah.
It's a rough thing. Trains are wonderful. The bus is a little rough.
Yeah, so I mean, the 9/11 thing is, you know, it's a fair enough trigger. I remember... that's a day that if anyone was alive then will remember it very clearly, and then most people will know what they're doing, you know. And I was at the passport office in the morning, and I was watching on TV what's going on. I was like, this is a really crap film. What's this? You know, that's so predictable. That would never happen. And then it was like, oh, this is the news.
Wow. Yeah.
So I flew to Cape Town that night, and I know a lot of people, the airport was very quiet, because a lot of people were like, well, that's it, you know, it's like kicking off. I figured the opposite. I just thought, well, if anything like this has happened, probably security is double. And when I got to the airport, there was a tank parked outside the terminal. And I was thinking, well, that's helpful. You know, if there's an attack, you know, by a terrorist, I couldn't believe, I think it was just to reassure the public. But I think these things are all natural and understandable. Okay, so you are where you are. What have you done to help yourself so far, apart from promising you're never going to get on an aircraft again?
Excuse me. I'm a little bit lost, actually, in terms of what to do. And I sometimes think about, I don't know how many people listening to this, watching this, will be people who see the New York City news, so have an awareness of the things that go on the subway. Pardon me 1 second. The thing about the subway that's different is, if something bad is happening on the subway, within a minute, I'm going to be able to get out. If there's something bad on my car, I can go to a car next door. Once I make a commitment to get on that flight, I can't get off of it.
No, which is good. Who would want it, would you really? Let's be honest. That's not to be the best. Yeah. So we've got some elements of control here, which is quite normal, haven't we? So that's kind of part of the deal. You said that already. So you know, we're out in the open about this. Yeah. So the control thing, we get that. Yeah. So what is it when you're up there? So you've got this thing about control. There's a height thing going on. What is it you think about the turbulence and stuff? What is it you believe about that?
Excuse me. So I don't know if I should even be talking about this. So cut it if you don't want it in there. But I apologize. Give me one more second. You know, it's funny. I think that even talking about this, I've become so anxious, and this is
Yeah.
this
That's what I
can
was
give
wondering.
you.
That have you got water? Because I
Yeah,
think
I have water.
I've never had anybody, uh, choked to death on the podcast yet. So you don't really want to be the first, do you?
I'm fine. But so that's how anxious I am. Look at me talking about it. I'm sorry. I'm getting red on and off. And so actually putting me up in the air, I'm going to have physical symptoms of severe anxiety. I know that.
Oh.
What am I going to do? I'm going to embarrass whoever I'm with, or if I'm by myself, all the people around me are going to be like, what's this crazy person near me? And
So the question was like, what do you believe about turbulence or being up there? What's that? What's your thought process?
So I had been very much aware that planes do not fall out of the sky. That's something people think is going to happen, but it's not going to happen. But now we have that Boeing incident, several Boeing incidents where they're not doing the safety control that they were doing. And I shouldn't have, but I learned about how exactly it works, that they modified older planes and put these new engines that the planes can't handle. And then there's a system that's a sort of working with the plane, and they didn't educate the pilots on it enough. I'm afraid the plane is going to fall out of the sky. Okay. Like a couple of Boeing flights have.
Okay. So I can see what you're doing there. So I'm interested where you've got your information from, because just out of curiosity, because it's some, so there's good sources of information. There's less good.
They might not be the best sources. I know that, because again, targeted marketing from our phones, it knows what we're looking at. My phone knows I'm afraid of flying, and sometimes will show me things I shouldn't be seeing. But the regular news here will talk about Boeing incidents, and that they're, I think that the CFO or somebody, please don't quote me, but somebody stepped down recently because it was bad enough.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm always very nervous of anything in the media. I mean, I've said it on the podcast if you listen to them, because unfortunately they can be a little bit sensationalist.
Yeah,
I think the other thing is that we have to think about these industries and stuff. But I don't want to convince you. You'll get to this in your own time. So, what have you tried so far to help yourself with your fear?
I should have looked him up. I forget his name. You may know his name. He's a former military person and a social worker who wrote a book about fear of flying and has like a chat room about fear of flying. So I read his book and I used his suggestions, with included in it, putting a paper in front of you. If you can read this, you're fine. And then during turbulence, counting, because you think it's going on for 3 hours, but it's not even going on for 30 seconds. And when you count, you realize, oh, that was 5 seconds. If you count, you'll know it was 5 seconds, as opposed to thinking back on it, that was half the flight.
That's an interesting. So was that Ron Nilsson, Captain Ron?
Yeah, I would imagine if you know his name, it's the right name. I don't remember his name. I don't think there's anyone else doing that.
There is another person that operates in the US as well, but I'm not mentioning it. No, I don't want to give him advertising, but Captain Rod. Captain Rod. He's great. Okay. So all right. So that's good.
The thing that helped me, I think the thing that helped me the most on that flight to Texas, that wasn't the case on the flight back, was that I met the pilots and went into the cockpit.
Right.
And they were lovely to me. Like, I'm there, a grown-ass woman with a teddy bear and headphones, and I look terrified. And you're like, why don't you come in? And they did not look like the kind of people I know. And that made me feel very good. They did not look like the quirky comics I hang out with, all the odd entertainers. And then I know a lot of people in the helping fields, in mental health and stuff like that. I'm not saying that my friends aren't strong and tough, but they didn't look like these two guys. These two guys looked like they were out of a book on put together pilots. And seeing them and talking to them made me feel like, okay. The flight back from Texas, they wouldn't meet me. They said no, that they wouldn't come out. And while I completely and totally respect that, then I get in my head, why won't they meet me? What are they hiding from? What did they notice going on in this plane? And I think that was a factor. Obviously, the turbulence was a factor, as well as coming down with COVID, making everything worse. I didn't know I was sick, and then I landed and I didn't feel well, and I thought it was because of the flight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the pilots, they often they do try to come out and meet, but if they've got a quick turnaround, they won't.
Yeah.
They got to focus on that. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. I'm not judging them. They
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if they didn't look like other people, they didn't come out, so we'll never know.
Right. And if they came out and they looked like anyone I would hang out with, be like, hey, how you doing? I'd have been like, oh.
Yeah, they've got to come out and be piloty, haven't they? Yeah, have the right voice and just look like pilots. I get it.
Look like everything's been ironed in the past 3 minutes. And
exactly. Yeah, I can spot pilots if I'm somewhere and there's a couple of guys sort of in a bar. I can tell you pilots normally because we just have a look about them, so they look piloty. Yeah, so I get it. Okay, so what else have you been doing or considered doing in terms of helping your peer?
I've considered taking a class at one of the airports nearby. We have Newark Airport, LaGuardia Airport, at JFK. I don't know what they offer. I think I've looked and I stopped looking and looked again, but because I recently turned down a gig I really regret, and I have this opportunity that I'm denying. I think it's time to do that, to go to. Also, anytime we pass an airport, my husband points out the planes so that I see them. I see all the planes in the air and all of them safely landing. This is an interesting thing, and I don't know. It didn't end up happening. I'm so glad. One of my husband's cousins is a pilot, a small plane pilot. He has a plane that is probably 3 times the size of my car. That's it. It's very, very small. And he was going to take my husband on a flight. We went to the airport, and I was going to sit back like a mom and take pictures and just be like, oh, look at you. But when we were there and I started talking to him, he's like, I can take you up for 5 minutes. I can take you up, and if you can't handle it, we'll land in 5 minutes. And my initial response was no, because I was afraid that my reaction would make his entire side of the family hate me, because I would start cursing and crying, and they would see how crazy I am. But I was seriously considering it. But then there was an issue with the plane, and the plane couldn't take off, so it didn't happen. I can't do that anyway. The small planes, you feel everything.
You do, yeah. I mean, some people love that, though, because it gives them a chance to sort of familiarize themselves with it. But yeah, they do move a lot more. As you don't like to, so that's not the best probably for you right now.
Yeah. But I touched on this, but this is like an aspect of what's going on. I love to ski. And I went all those years where I wasn't able to do things like skiing. And when I came back to skiing, I was so happy to be skiing again. And I went with a friend. And the second time I was like, I'm going to go by myself because I don't need the socialization. I just want to ski. And I was a mess on the chairlift. The air hits the chairlift, it sways side to side, and I was at no point on a very high up chairlift. It didn't matter. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. So I think that you have to push and you have to show up no matter what. Over this past year, I got through a health scare. So I had to get a lot of tests. I'm fine. Everything's fine. It was a scare, right?
Yeah.
But because of that, I had to do a bunch of things, including having a minor surgery. And that kind of put working on fear of flying on hold. I have my sister and my husband like, oh, you have to work on it. You have to work on. I'm like, well, I'm having surgery this year. I have all this other stuff. I don't need to deal with this.
Yeah, yeah.
But now that it turns out I'm healthy, I don't have an excuse.
No, you don't.
No. No.
And also, surely there's a little bit of perspective here, isn't there, in terms of like your health versus fear of flying. So some people find that quite helpful. I mean, for me, listening to you, you've got a few interesting things going on. So, for example, you've got a really strong reason to want to fly. You know, you've missed things, and that's going to keep happening. And also, you've had the health stuff, which is often, you know, it might not be for you, but for some people, it can be like a bit of a wake up. They kind of go, do you know what? I mean, I was doing nothing, and I had this sort of scare, and I'm not doing stuff. So sometimes these things can be used quite positively, you know.
So there is an aspect of me that I think that would be important to mention here as well, is that I've had a harder life than you would think to look at me. And it's only the past maybe decade that I've had the opportunity to enjoy a lot of things. And now I love being alive. I can't wait to do all these different things I want to do. As much as I would love to see rural China, I want to live another day to get on stage, be with my husband, be with my parent, and that's more important. So
what's your motivation like to overcome the fear of flying? If you had to give it a score out of 10, like 10 is like, I'm definitely going to face it, want to do it, and 1 is forget it. Where are you?
7.
Okay. 7's pretty good.
But it's like happen? 6 or 7, not 7.
Come on, you can't reduce it. You just give me 7. All right. So, what would need to happen for that to be an 8 or a 9? Don't talk yourself down.
I guess not.
You don't negotiate your fee like that, do you? You talk yourself down. So you just.
I guess like my cousin's bat mitzvah was a really big deal. And it was I don't want to get into the details around it, but it would have to be at that level of an opportunity for a major, like to be on a late night TV show or something. Say I have an opportunity to perform at a festival in Napa Valley. That would be a wonderful experience and a wonderful opportunity. I don't think it would do anything other than that, whereas if I was on The Tonight Show, which is here, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
The Tonight Show films here, but an opportunity of that caliber would up it.
Okay, so that's so the locus of control, or the driver, is outside of you at the moment. So what else would help to get you up to an 8?
And it's hard for me to say this because I know it's really important to my husband and to my sister that I'm able to fly and go places and see things. I want to. I don't care. There are so many beautiful things to see in our country that I can drive to. And I don't want them hurt or feeling that I'm. There is an aspect of me that feels like I am denying my husband things that he would be doing if I was willing to, and that bothers me, and it bothers him.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's quite helpful. I mean, I don't think people with fear of flying should beat themselves up. So there is, you can give yourself permission not to be too hard on yourself. But it can be quite useful when you've got something like that, because you think, it might give you that little bit of steel inside, and you just think, maybe I'll do it for them until I feel like these are all great motivators, aren't they?
Well, that's my trip to Texas. That's what happened with the trip to Texas. I'm going to do it for him. I don't have to want to do this, but I'm going to do it for him. And the flight back was just so rough. Yeah. And I don't think it was that rough.
Yeah. So you were just, you're unwell. And so that does, if anything was going on with your, like if you had any of your blocked ears or anything like that, or you're feeling a bit sort of, lightheaded, all of that can exacerbate what you feel is happening, can't it? So these are all like explainable things, aren't they? So what would you be prepared to do in terms of help you could get, or maybe things you've tried in the past that have helped you with other fears?
I have a prescription for Xanax that I can take if I get on a flight. And I've been told, just take Xanax, you'll be fine. Xanax doesn't do anything for you from the time you buy the plane ticket until you get on the flight. And that underlying anxiety that lives in every day I have from the time the ticket is purchased to when I get on board is part of the issue. Yeah. I am in therapy. I'm in therapy for my anxiety in general. I'm working on my fear of heights with vestibular therapy. Every day I stand on a board that's a ball on the bottom and flat on the top, and I balance myself. I push myself to do things and be okay with it. Right after 9/11, I wasn't willing to get on the subway. And now I'm not saying I love the subway, but I take the subway regularly. I prefer to be driving quite often, but I will be a passenger in the car. I had an aunt who would never be the passenger. I will be a passenger, and I look to not say anything when we're getting close to that car in front of us.
Yeah. So you've overcome. So you've actually done quite a lot. So so the fear of flying is something that needs to work on, but you've worked on quite a lot. So you've got quite a lot of resources, haven't you, in terms of in you?
Yes. Yeah. And I have every intention to say it's a 7 to get over it. I have every intention that I will get in a plane again. I don't see myself not flying again. I don't want to fly like this. I don't want to. My sister is a therapist, and her answer to it is just get on a plane anyway. I don't want to do that to myself. No. I want to be in a better head before I do it. I don't want to get on a plane and hysterically cry the entire time. I don't want to do that.
No. There's a little bit of work to do. But you are working on it. You're working on other things, and all of it helps. But actually, because if you'd said, the funny thing is, when I asked you out of 10, I always have this little rule in my head: anything less than 8, they probably need some help. They might, if you said 5, I was expecting you to say 4 or 5. You said 7, which is a pretty high score, actually.
Because I just turned down a really nice opportunity, and I'm ignoring another one. I don't know if that opportunity is still there, but every time I see this person, he's like, message me, I want to get you to Napa Valley. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So
it's important. It's important.
They're important. Yeah, that's right. So what would you be prepared to do?
I'm going to, it's interesting that this happened when it did, because this has been very much on my mind again. My surgery and my outcome was a year ago in this month. Okay. So I'm in a place where I'm starting to do the things that I had put off, and included in it was address this. So I'm gonna look up Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK and see if any of them have those classes, and if I can find one that I can enroll in, I'm going to enroll.
Okay, this is good stuff.
Yeah,
we do an online program. You know that. I'm not trying to do some hard sell.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we do a 30-day program, which is 30 days, funnily enough. and not particularly original. But yeah, so you get a little video every day for about a 10-minute video a day with me and some of the other cronies, Captain Steve and Sarah. And yeah, so that could be an option. That's like, to you, probably $60. I think it's £49 over here. So
I know your money is better than ours right now.
Well, I don't know if it's much. I don't know. It took a bit of a. It's been a bit stinky lately. So because I think something happened, and I don't really understand economics. But
I don't either. But I know that I've worked with other people in your country and have had that exchange where it's like, well, it's for me, it's less money than this. So I know that just because of that.
Yeah.
I worked with a hypnotherapist in Britain specifically. Yeah.
Any good?
Great. She has helped me tremendously with my anxiety, not fear of heights though. That can't, it doesn't, and she tried with that.
Yeah. Is it someone that's still working? Can we plug her? Can we give her a little, who is it?
Yeah. Her name's Danielle, but I can send you her.
Okay.
I don't know her last name offhand. I could send you her info.
All right, we'll do that then. Well, yeah, it's just, there's people operating. Some people are often, but I do know a couple of hypnotherapists myself, but it's always nice to get a recommendation. So yeah, appreciate that.
She's wonderful, so thoughtful, puts so much time and energy and love into her work. That I had developed a little stage fright coming out of COVID. I was my father's caretaker, and the combination, and I watched him pass on, and the combination of that and stuff coming back into comedy, I was all of a sudden, I had stage fright, never had it before, and she really helped me with that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
but then after that, we started working out fear of heights, and it didn't.
That didn't, yeah. Okay.
No.
So yeah, she helped. So the next step to you then, you're going to maybe look at a class.
Mm-hmm.
And what can we do to help you?
I don't know. That's part of the problem. Usually I can answer that question. The more I know, I think the better. The more I understand how planes work and how flying works, I think the better.
Yeah. So you listen to the podcast, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's some stuff in there, and you're in the Love Fly Facebook group as well. So what we want, right, Sharon Simon? What we want is you to come back. We want to hear a date that you're going to set yourself sort of like a target, and then you're going to work. We'll work on it, and we can be your professional nags.
Okay. So let's say I can make a commitment by this time next year. I will have been on a flight.
Okay. We know that. That's it. Now it's out there.
I'm getting hot. Yeah. When I say something out loud, I don't back. I show up, and I don't. Yeah. I don't like to ever say I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I think that as a human being, that sets the precedent that you won't do what you say you're going to do. So yeah,
we like that.
Get on a plane between now and April of next year.
Brilliant. So this is the thing, this is very much a Tony Robbins thing. It's like, tell people, so you make yourself accountable. So you've got lots of people that can support, stroke, nag you.
Yeah.
We like that.
And if anybody's listening to this and wants to reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram with some advice, please, I would love it. I would love it.
All right. So it's so if they want to find you on Instagram,
my name is Sharon Simon, and my Instagram is Simon_says laugh. Simon Says Laugh with the underscore between Simon and Says Laugh. The person who has Simon Says Laugh isn't using it. Won't get back to me, but
okay. And presumably then, is that what's your stage name for your comedy?
It's Sharon Simon, but because my last name is Simon, my website is Simon Says Laugh. Everything is that's my real name. I didn't change it when I got married. I changed my middle name. I kept my first and last name.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we're going to look out for you, and we've got this deadline now. So you got 15 o'clock. So
did I turn red?
Well, no, I can tell. And you've made a commitment now, which is great.
Yes.
And so we want to track you a bit and know what you're up to. So please give us some regular updates in the Facebook group, and
I will.
And then you can come back and tell us how you got on.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
Perfect. Progress is better than perfection.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
All right. I'm committed, Paul. I will do it.
All right. Brilliant. So this is well, I asked Sharon to come on because I saw her story in the Facebook group, and I just thought we often have people with success stories, and like we see the end bit, but we don't get many that are at the more near the beginning. So I thought it'd be interesting to do like another. We have had a couple. Yeah, I'm trying to think who we've had. Well, we've had quite a few that have done 2 parts, like Jamie and Becky, and who else we have? Debbie. There's been a few. So you join a great group of humans, and we want to see you do your next bit.
Thank you, Paul. I hope I'm going to.
Yeah,
and I was going to.
That's it.
Yeah.
You did
That's it.
You've made it now. The pledge is out there. And then who knows? Yeah. All right, Sharon. Thank you very much. It's lovely to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Lovely to meet you too. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. And I'll have to check out some of your comedy as well now.
Awesome.
On YouTube and stuff, aren't you? But yeah,
of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.